So let's begin with the idea of density, right? So let me just first of all skim the
So let's
content, then
derive
I
the SI
will
unit of
add on the
density, right? So
details.
we know the
Okay.
formula of density.
And you
What is
had
density?
homework
Density
assigned.
is
Hamza, आप homework Monday को देंगे?
mass per unit volume.
सर पता नहीं है तो आज
ठीक
आज
है.
भी गया हुआ था अभी भी
Imagine
आया
कि
हूँ
we are talking
चार
about a
बजे
cube
And
over here,
basically
right?
talk with your
Cube.
mother, so she said कि आप Monday को दे देंगे, ठीक है? तो Monday तक, Tuesday तक कर
It
लीजिएगा
has
आप.
dimensions,
Okay.
length by length by length, right? Okay. So now let's
Ryan,
derive
where's
the
your
units.
homework?
So we have seen in the first chapter what is the base unit of mass. Hello, Ryan. Am I audible? What is the base unit of mass?
I guess Ryan is connecting some earphones वगैरह. So
What is
till
the
then,
SI unit of
let's
mass? ये
continue.
मुश्किल सवाल
ठीक
तो
है.
नहीं है देखो.
Let
किलोग्राम
me just choose a
That's
color. So in
kilogram,
किलोग्राम
right?
everyday
It's
language,
kilograms.
let's imagine lead.
You should
So
not be thinking on
what
this
is lead?
question. It's
Anyone?
kilograms kg, right?
Where do you find the
So
term
what about
lead?
the volume? Let's say volume कैसे आती है क्यूब की?
reproducible
Volume is basically going to be length by length
Yeah,
by
lead
length,
is
right?
basically
So
found in
volume is
pencil, right?
L cube
If you
of a
just
cube,
recall, if
right?
you have a pencil,
So
this
what is the SI
basically
unit of volume?
the central
So see in the
black
formula on the right.
सर सेंटीमीटर
part of the
क्यूब
pencil is basically made up of
How do
lead, right?
we measure mass?
So
How
which
do we measure
basically
length?
helps you write
Length is measured in
with the
meters.
dark A
Hello guys,
B4 pencil, right? So
welcome back
this
to Earth.
is basically made up of lead.
Okay.
So
Length is
is
always measured in
lead is
meters.
one of the elements in
सही है.
periodic table. So it is saying
So
that
we
lead is
have the
said to be
volume to
heavier
be
than
in
wood,
meter
right?
cube, right?
So can you think of a reason
Does that make
why is
sense?
lead heavier than wood?
Okay, so that is called cubic meter.
Why is lead heavier than wood?
सर
Yeah.
सर इट्स
So we just
डेंसर
put in these things into the
It is
formula.
denser, right?
Therefore,
So what do you mean by
this
denser?
means therefore, it's a mathematical term. ठीक है.
Raise your
So
hand and
density
answer.
SI unit
Yeah.
is kilogram
सर इट
per
हैज मोर
meter
मास पर यूनिट
cube,
वॉल्यूम
right? Or if
Okay.
you want to write in
ठीक
terms of
है. Anyone
English
else
alphabetical form, that
wants
is
to
going to
participate?
be kilogram cubic
Okay. No one.
meter.
ठीक है. ठीक है. I guess everyone agrees with
Right?
Ryan. So Ryan is saying that sir, it has
I
more
hope it makes
more
sense.
per
If
mass per
is
unit
the
volume.
derivation
ठीक
clear,
है. So yeah, Ryan saw the formula and
give
he
me a thumbs up
basically
if it is
manipulated the
clear.
formula कि अगर sir numerator ज़्यादा बड़ा होगा तो
Okay,
overall
रुको.
answer भी
Ryan clear
basically
है.
would be great, right?
And
Yes, Hamza, you
Mashal
want to add on?
को भी clear है. That's good. That's good.
ठीक है. Okay. So
Conversion, right?
okay. I
So
guess
we can
Hamza is
have
thinking
different
right now.
representation of
So
densities also, as
what does
you
this term
guys said,
means
K
basically?
centimeter
So
cube,
as
right?
a layman, you would think
So we can
by
have
this it
density
meant कि कुछ
in
certain part of volume
basically
of
we
lead
have
is
density
heavier
in
than the
kilogram per
same
meter cube,
volume
but
of wood,
some
right?
values can also be
Imagine कि
given
this
in
is
gram per centimeter
let's
cube, right?
imagine this is the block
So
A
how
which
do
is
we
made up of
convert?
lead, right?
Let's say, how do we convert
And
from
it is the
gram per
same
centimeter
dimension, right?
cube?
Let me just keep the dimension
Let me
same.
just first of all start
So
with
we
a
have the
simple
same
case.
dimension of the wood.
First case is how do we convert from kilogram
Approximately same कर लेते हैं.
per meter cube
And it is made up
to
of wood,
gram per
right?
centimeter cube,
So this layman statement says कि
right?
let's imagine that
We
this
have the
section of the
relation
wood
that
of the lead is heavier than
1
this
gram per
section of the
centimeter
wood, right?
cube
So it makes the
is equals
overall
to
answer,
1000
the
kilogram per
overall
meter cube, right? We're going to derive
basically
that
lead to be heavier
from the
than.
value कैसे होता
It
है.
says कि
ठीक
lead
है.
is heavier than
अच्छा जी. So we have, I'm
is
going to
heavier
basically
than
just solve the left hand
wood,
side,
right?
right? I'm solving the left hand side of this relation, of this
Okay.
equation. So we
So in
have 1
science, such
kilogram
comparison is basically used using a term
per
called
1
density, right?
meter cube, right?
So we don't just say कि we just don't
1
use the
meter
layman
cube.
definitions. We
ठीक
need
है
to be
जी.
basically
अब
specific.
we know कि
Okay,
what
what
is
are we
kilo,
talking
right?
about?
Kilo stands
So
for
the term which we are
10 to
looking
the
for
power
here
3. We
is
had
one
seen
that
this in
is
chapter
called
1,
density, right?
right?
We
Kilo
compare
is
two
1000. And
elements,
how do we
two
convert
components or
from
two
meter
blocks
to
of
centimeter,
same
right? So
dimension
1 meter is
with the term using density,
100
right?
centimeters.
So what
If I
is
want to find
density?
what
As
is 1
Ayan
meter
said,
cube,
sir, and
I can
Hamza
cube
said,
both the sides,
and
right?
also
I
Rupa
can
said, sir,
cube both the
density is
sides.
mass per unit volume,
So
right?
that is going to give me कि 1
If
meter
a
cube is
question comes in your theory exam for the 1 mark,
one
what is
cube is
density?
1
So
and
just
100
remember
cube
the
is
formula. What is the formula? That
100
is
cube
mass per unit
is
volume. And
basically 1
thus
million, right? It's
convert the formula into
1
definition,
million
and it
6
says
zeros
it is mass per
centimeter
unit
cube, right?
volume, right?
So in place
Is
of
it
1
clear till
meter
now?
cube, I can write basically these many centimeter
यस
cubes. And instead
ठीक
of
है.
kilo, I can write
You
this
can give me a
basically
thumbs up,
kilos, right?
literally.
So I have
Whenever
this
I ask you,
following
is it clear? Just give me a thumbs up,
a basically
right? Okay.
simplification that 1
So
times
yeah,
10 to the
Raya
power
gives me a
3
thumbs up.
grams
Hamza, Rupa. Okay,
divided
good.
by
So
1
this is pretty
times
quick to just
1
ask a question and get a
million
response, right? अच्छा जी.
centimeter cube.
Let me just
ठीक
give
है.
you an
So
overall
if I
estimate
simplify
कि हम
this,
क्या बात करना
I
चाह
can
रहे हैं.
get the
If
following
I just
relation
use
that
my Picasso skills, let me just show off my skills. Let me insert a blank slide.
ठीक है जी.
Yeah, imagine कि you
So
have
it is
a 3D
equals
cube,
to basically
right? You have a 3D cube.
0.001 gram per
Imagine it
centimeter
contains
cube.
liquid, right?
So liquid के
right?
अंदर particles
Or
are
I can
basically
say this as
slightly
follows
away from each
also.
other. ठीक है?
Okay, 1 kilogram per meter cube equals to 0.001 gram per centimeter, right? So if I
Right?
just
And
convert
if
the
I talk
decimal
about a gas
point into
particle,
fraction
right?
form, that is
Let's
going
say
to
this
be as
this is
follows:
cube
that one
cube A
kilogram
contains
per
liquid, right?
meter cube is equals to 1 upon
And
1000
if I make a cube B
gram
of
per centimeter
approximately
cube.
same
So
dimension,
if I want to basically, this is the relation from kilogram per meter cube to gram per centimeter cube. If I want to find relation from gram
just
per
give me a
centimeter
second, I'm
cube
getting a call. Just give me
to
just two
kilogram per
seconds.
meter cube, I can just make gram per centimeter cube subject, right? I can send this 1000 over here. So I will get a relation that 1 gram per centimeter cube is equals to 1000 kilogram per meter cube, right? So that's pretty simple. So we have two relations. But how do we go from kilogram per meter cube to gram per centimeter cube? And how do we go from gram per centimeter cube to kilogram per meter cube? Does that make sense?
Okay, so apologies. Okay, so now we have a
Okay,
cube
I
B
hope it
which
makes
now
sense.
contains a gas particle, right?
If it
Sir,
does,
Let
I'm
me just draw the gas
little
particles.
confused
We
on
know gas
this.
particles
where are you lost?
are pretty far away from each other, right?
Centimeter cube, like why have you written 1 meter cube is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
This is cube
seven
Okay.
B,
zeros.
which
Yeah.
contains
It's 6 zeros,
gas
no?
particle, right? Acha,
1, 2,
dimensions
Oh,
3.
are
sorry,
same, right?
six
If it
zeros.
is
Yeah.
length L,
Acha,
so
so
this is also
basically
L, this
we
is
know
also
कि
L.
1 meter
Similarly,
is
it's a
equals to
cube, right?
100 centimeter, right? ये
So
आपको
can
याद है?
you tell me, can you just judge these these two
Yes.
ठीक है.
cubes
So
over
if I
here
want to
and
find one
tell
meter
me
cube,
which
so I just
density is
basically
greater?
cubed both the sides,
Which
right?
blocks density,
One का
cubes
cube is
density will be
1,
greater?
meter का cube is meter cube, right? What is 100 का cube is basically 1
And
million,
why?
right?
Think about the
And
formula.
what is centimeter
Yes.
cube is
The
centimeter
formula
cube. So
says
this is a
कि
relation
density
which
equals to
basically tells you कि 1 meter cube is equals to how many centimeter
mass per
cubes.
unit work.
Okay, okay, okay.
So मैंने किलोग्राम को मैंने ग्राम में कन्वर्ट कर दिया, मैंने मीटर क्यूब को सेंटीमीटर क्यूब में कन्वर्ट कर दिया, ठीक है, and therefore I
Right?
had this answer, right, which is
Now
this
think
relation
about
over here.
this formula and see
Okay.
these
Does
particular
that make
two
sense now?
cubes over here and raise your hand if
Yes.
you want
ठीक
to
है.
answer, right?
And then simply if I
I'm going
want
to
to
give
make
you
gram per centimeter cube
a
subject,
minute to think
I
about
just
it.
send this 1000 over there and I
Okay.
also have the relation to convert from gram per centimeter cube to
Density of what
kilogram per meter cube.
X is greater than density
ठीक
of
है.
Y
Okay.
So
and
this
Y.
can pop in your theory exam कि आपको वो डेंसिटी किलोग्राम पर सेंटीमीटर क्यूब में दी हुई है, बट आपके मास इज इन kilograms,
You can
right?
guess also. It
So
does not
how
need
would
to be
you
correct.
basically manipulate the density into
Can you
kilogram
repeat
per
the
meter cube?
question?
I'm just
Make
saying कि
sense?
if you just see these two cubes
Yes.
over here,
ठीक है.
ठीक है, liquid में you
So
know
yeah,
कि we
that's
have
good. That's
more
good. Let's
particles
move
per
on.
unit volume,
So
right?
these are some densities of some
Because they are
common
closer to each
substances which we
other,
found in Earth.
ठीक
ठीक
है?
है. So
And
aluminium
दूसरे
की
का cube के अंदर
I was
मैंने
close
एक
enough.
gas को
ठीक
fill
है.
कर दिया,
So
right?
it's given in gram per centimeter cube, right?
तो
Solids की.
जो कंटेनर है उसकी वॉल्यूम
So
सेम है,
aluminum की is 2.7,
राइट? सो
copper
इसकी जो
की is
वॉल्यूम है
8.9, and then you can
वी
see
है,
copper has a
इसकी भी
very
वॉल्यूम
high
वी है,
density, right? I was
राइट?
pretty close.
नाउ
Iron has a
सीइंग द
density of
डायग्राम, सीइंग द
7.9
नंबर ऑफ
gram per centimeter
पार्टिकल्स,
cube. Gold has
हाउ
the
व्हाट
highest
कैन यू से
density, but we
अबाउट
cannot
डेंसिटी
use
कि
gold
व्हाट
to create
डेंसिटी,
beryllium,
व्हिच
right?
क्यूब
It's
डेंसिटी इज
pretty
ग्रेटर
rare,
देन
right? And glass
व्हिच
की is
क्यूब डेंसिटी?
2.5. You can
लेट्स
see
से
glass
डेंसिटी
is
एक्स
pretty
ग्रेटर देन
weaker
डेंसिटी
than
वाई,
the
राइट?
copper, right? You can see the
तो
relation why.
अगर जो आप बता रहे
Density
कि
इसकी बहुत
लेट्स से
कम
ए
होती
की
है,
ज्यादा
wood की
होगी
सबसे
बी
कम
से
डेंसिटी
क्यों?
है, ठीक है. That means कि wood is pretty
सर इसलिए
less
क्योंकि
dense as
लिक्विड
compared
के
to other
पार्टिकल्स
substances in this particular solid tranche.
गैस के
Similarly,
पार्टिकल
ice,
से
right?
रिलेटिवली
You can break
ज्यादा
ice with your hands, with your
क्लोजली
bare hands, right?
पैक्ड होते हैं,
तो
Polythene is basically
उससे क्या हो
plastic
रहा है?
and it's pretty less
उससे
dense too.
कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ज्यादा
Plastic
होती
can
है.
basically, if you
कॉन्सेंट्रेशन
just
मतलब
leave
यू
the
सीइंग
plastic
वॉल्यूम
in
ज्यादा हो
air,
रही है
which you should not, it
व्हाट
basically fly in air,
कि
right?
वॉल्यूम
Because it is
ज्यादा
pretty
है,
less dense.
कॉन्सेंट्रेशन रेफर्स टू वॉल्यूम,
So liquids की
पता
density
नहीं.
we can see कि are
वॉल्यूम तो सेम
are
है ना?
less
आई
than
सेड ओवर
yeah
हियर कि
all equal
वॉल्यूम
to
इज सेम,
solids. It's 0.8 paraffin,
कुछ दो कंटेनर
petrol
फुली फुली फिल्ड हो
0.8,
गए हमारे
pure
पास
water is
और
1
लिक्विड्स ऑफ
gram per
गैस,
centimeter cube, and mercury is 13.6
but
gram
I
per
want to
centimeter
answer
cube.
yes.
Mercury is the only liquid which has a pretty high
Sir,
density, right?
the mass
ठीक है.
in cube
So
A is more,
mercury is
so
pretty
there will be
harmful
more
material.
mass
It is
because the
used in
volumes are
thermometer,
same.
right? So
So there will
thermometer
be
में जो
more
देखते हैं ना
mass getting
the
divided by the
gray
same
particle,
volume,
right?
so that
If you have a thermometer like
Good,
this,
good. I hope it makes sense to everyone कि what is Rand
right,
trying to
and you have
say.
a tube,
So
right,
answer
in
is
the center
basically density of A is
and a
greater than
thermometer.
density of B.
This is called
Why?
liquid in
Because
glass
वॉल्यूम तो
thermometer.
दोनों की सेम है ना,
And
कंटेनर की
इसके अंदर
डायमेंशन
जो आपके
सेम है,
पास जो
तो
particle होता
दोनों
है, right,
फुली फिल्ड हो
grayish
गए, तो
particle, let
उनकी
me just
वॉल्यूम
choose
तो
a gray
सेम है,
color.
राइट? So you can see कि there are
Gray,
more
we
number
have
of
a grayish
particles here, right? So
basically
what is
particle
happening
inside
over
this
here?
tube.
So number of
This is
particles,
mercury, right? And it is
or we
pretty
can say
dangerous
number
if
of
you just
particles
touch it,
slash
or
amount of matter.
if any particle goes into your body, it's poison, right? Amount of matter. So don't try it at home.
Amount of matter.
So liquids की density we can see कि are less than या all equal to solids. It's 0.8 paraffin, petrol 0.8, pure water is 1
So
So don't try it at home. ठीक
in
है, सब
A
मर्क्यूरी में ट्राई करूंगा,
is
that is
greater
pretty
than
poisonous, right?
everything
Okay,
to be happening at
so
that B,
similarly
right?
air, hydrogen,
So if we
carbon
just
dioxide,
recall the
so you
definition of
should have a rough
mass,
idea, right,
mass is
कि
what
मर्क्यूरी
the
में
amount
लिक्विड की
of
सबसे
matter
ज्यादा
in a
डेंसिटी
body, right?
होती है, ठीक है? If MCQs pops in your exam
Mass is
and you
basically
have a
equal to
comparison
matter,
between mercury
amount of
and
matter,
copper, आप कहते हैं copper सबसे ज्यादा dense होता है,
amount
so
of
that would be wrong, right? So
matter
you
in the
should have
body,
a
right?
representation of values.
So if you
Okay.
closely observe the formula, and if
So
I just
let's
again go
see
to a blank
which
slide,
variable we
so the
use to write
formula
down
says
in the
कि
formula for
density
calculations and what does each
equals to
term represent, right? You see
mass
कि
upon
density is equals to mass
volume,
upon
right?
volume, right? So it has three terms
Okay.
over here.
Now
The
see this
first one is
example.
called
If I
rho,
have 4
right?
upon
It's
5,
a Greek symbol, ठीक है?
and
And
if
basically
I
represents
basically
density,
increase the numerator, let's say मैं इसको कर दिया 5 upon 5, अब मैं इसको
right?
कर दिया 6 upon
And then
5,
you have
ठीक है, अब इसको मैंने कर दिया 8
m,
upon 5,
small m, right?
ठीक है, so I'm
Right? It
basically
basically
doing what? I'm
represents,
increasing the numerator, right? So
sorry,
numerator
let
is
me just
basically increasing.
make an
So
arrow.
what is happening to the answer?
It
Whole
represents
answer.
basically mass, right?
This is
And then you
basically
have capital
0.8
V.
in
It
decimal
represents
points.
basically volume,
This
right?
is 1. This is what?
So
1.2.
density is
And
basically
this is
measured in
1.2,
kilogram
right?
per meter cube, and
Make
mass
sense?
is measured in kilograms. Volume is measured in meter cube, right?
1.5,
Okay.
sorry.
So let's
5 to
say
the
if
30.
I ask you guys
5 4 20.
to
हाँ,
calculate,
1.4.
सही
If
है.
you see
So
कि if
I
I
was
increase
just
the
saying कि
numerator,
what does each
so what is happening
symbol
over here?
represents
If I
over
increase
here,
the mass,
and
so the density is also
let's say
increasing,
if I
right?
ask you guys to calculate
Why?
mass,
Because
right?
if you see the formula is saying that density
And let's say
is
if I ask you guys to
directly
calculate
proportional to
volume,
mass,
so how would you
right?
manipulate the formula, right?
So if I
So
increase the
let's
mass, the
see for
density
case
shall
one.
also increase, right?
So
So if
that
I
is the
ask you guys
reason
to
कि if
basically
you just see
measure
this example over
mass,
here,
so
ठीक है?
liquid की
So you
density
know कि
ज़्यादा क्यों
density is
होती है
equals to
गैस
mass
से?
upon
This is the
volume,
reason.
right?
If it
And how
makes
can you
sense to
make
all of
mass
you,
subject?
kindly
You have
give your
volume in the
thumbs.
denominator.
Give
You're
me a
gonna
thumbs
send
up,
it over there. So you're gonna
everyone,
multiply it. So
if it
mass is
makes
going to
sense.
basically equals to mass density times
Okay,
volume, right?
makes sense to Hamza, Rayan,
If
Ruba,
I ask you
and
guys to measure
Mashal is,
volume, how do you
I
measure
guess, still
volume?
lost.
Okay, so I use the
Okay,
formula to
Mashal,
manipulate
you can
and
join
get
us
the
on the
subject,
next
right?
slide,
So
and you
if
can
you
watch
have
the
density
recording still
equals to
here,
mass
right?
upon volume, how do you get volume subject?
Okay.
Just swap
So let's
density with volume,
continue.
right?
I guess now you
So you're
have
gonna
an
get
idea about
volume equals
density,
to
right? So what are we
mass
thinking
upon
about over here?
density. We are talking
So
about
there's a
mass, we're
shortcut to
talking about
remember the
volume,
formula.
right? And these
That
two
is
combinations give
that
us
is called
density,
the
right?
triangle method.
Okay, जो हम पहले कर चुके हैं
So
first period and
introduction.
displacement also.
Let's talk about
So
some
मैं have a
introduction over
triangle
here.
here and let's
Oh my
see
God,
what are we
a
talking about,
triangle.
right? It's not a good
Okay.
one. So
Okay.
can
Let
you
me
just
just
give read this
try
slide
to.
for 30 seconds and I'm gonna ask questions from you guys. What is
Put it
written
on.
over here? And what are you talking about over here? Right? So you have the formula density equals to mass upon volume, right? So we have mass over here, volume over here, density over here, right? So any quantity which is basically going to be up and down, that is going to be dividing, and if any quantity which are basically side by side, going to multiply it. If I want to find mass, so mass is going to be basically you can see density and volume are side by side, right? It's density times volume, right? If I want to find uh volume, what is going to be the formula? If I want to find let's say density,
Yes, who wants to
what is going to
answer?
be the formula? मुझे
Just give
रुपा
me a
बताएंगी for a
brief
second
summary
and
of what is
Mashal
in
for the
this
third one.
slide.
So density equals to
Yes,
mass upon volume.
And volume is
Rayan,
equals to mass upon
क्या
density.
बता रहे हैं? Yeah, okay, good. So that is a shortcut to remember. Okay, so
They're
volume is
they're
going to be
telling us
mass
that
upon
the
density,
density of
and the
lead
density is
is
going to be
11 grams per
mass
cubic
upon volume, right?
centimeters,
Which
Mm-hmm.
basically
which
matches the
means that
exact thing over here,
one
right? So if you are not good at
if you have a
remembering
piece of
formulas,
lead
just
of
remember the
volume 1
triangle.
centimeter cube,
That will
that
help you out in
piece
solving
of
questions,
lead
right?
will have mass
Okay,
11 grams.
so
And if
let's
we
move
have
on.
a piece of lead of volume,
Any questions till
for
now?
example, 6 centimeter cube,
Mm-hmm.
If
it
it is
would be
clear,
66
thumbs
grams.
up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay,
26.
okay, ठीक है.
So
I
this
want
shows
you guys
us
to
if
use
the
the tools
density
of
of
Zoom
a substance
available,
is
right?
known, the mass of
Okay,
any volume
good.
of it can be
ठीक है.
calculated.
Okay, okay.
Good,
So a
good
question
overall
for you
speeches.
guys,
सही
right?
है.
Tell
So
take out your
let's
pencil and
they are talking
copy and
about an
calculators and
example
start
over
solving
here,
this
right?
question.
So let's
Hurry up.
just give you an example.
I'm gonna give you
कि
2 minutes
how
to
does
solve.
the
ठीक
density
है? So
basically
first of
is
all, when are you
affected
solving a
by the
question,
dimension, right?
हमेशा
So
start के अंदर write down what is given to you, right?
let's see
What
over
data is
here कि
given to
हो
you.
क्या रहा है,
ठीक
right?
है? So
So
given
they
the
are saying
density
the
of copper.
density of lead is basically
So given
11
the
gram per
density of
centimeter
copper,
cube, right?
ठीक है?
That is basically
That is
this. And this means
9
that a
gram
piece
per
of lead,
centimeter
if
cube.
it occupies the volume of
So
1
in part
centimeter
A,
cube, they are
वो
saying
कह
कि
रहा है कि
density is
अगर
equals to
आपको
basically what?
वॉल्यूम दी हुई है
11
कॉपर की,
gram
that is
per
5
centimeter
centimeter
cube, right?
cube, what would be the
Okay.
mass of the copper,
So अब
right?
मुझे
So
बताएं
write down
कि
the
अगर
letters
हमारे पास
और जल्दी
इनकी
से मुझे
डेंसिटी दी हुई, if I
I'm
have
gonna
a
give you two
volume
minutes
of
to solve
2 centimeter
both the
cube, volume. So
let's say.
it's
So
pretty
what
simple,
would be the
right?
mass then?
So if you don't remember the formula, just
Give
remember
me a
the
rough
density
answer.
equals to mass upon
Close
volume.
estimate.
So you want to just
22.
manipulate this formula for solving for the quantity side.
Okay, anyone else?
आपको पहले में मास फाइंड करनी है, आपको
22.
डेंसिटी दी हुई है, आपको वॉल्यूम दी हुई है.
Yeah, sir, 22.
How do you make mass subject? Just get basically volume on the left hand side, that is going to be density times volume, right? अच्छा, यहाँ पे देखें आपकी डेंसिटी भी ग्राम पर सेंटीमीटर क्यूब में है, आपकी वॉल्यूम भी सेंटीमीटर क्यूब में है, राइट? तो इट मीन्स कि आपका मास वुड बी इन ग्राम्स, ठीक है? अगर आपको डेंसिटी दी हुई होती किलोग्राम पर मीटर क्यूब में, सॉरी, if the density was in kilogram per meter cube and the volume was given in centimeter cube, ठीक है? You would have to either convert this into gram per centimeter cube, ठीक है? Or this to meter per cube, right? Whenever you're applying the formula, make sure the SI units are same, ठीक है? Because your answers won't be accurate then. ठीक है? I hope it makes sense. Since यहाँ पे सारे units same हैं, तो we can just put in the values and get the answers in grams, right? So therefore, the mass is going to be 9 times 5, right? So 5 times that is 45
Okay, guys.
gram,
अच्छा जी.
right?
So yeah,
That is answer for
72 क्या
first
कह रहा है
part.
हमजा?
I hope
Is it
it is
correct?
same for
Guys,
everyone,
you agree
right?
with Hamza?
So let me insert, yeah, that's good. Let me
Hamza
insert
is saying
a
72.
blank slide. So we are now doing
Okay.
part B, right?
ये भी ना
No, sir, it
72.
should
Density
be
remains same
22
of a
grams.
material, right? Copper
22
की अगर
grams.
density 9 gram per centimeter cube दी हुई है, so it will
Yeah.
remain
Centimeter
same
cube
for
should be
every
22
copper
grams.
Yeah,
material,
Ruba is
right?
correct, right?
Only
Ruba is
उसकी
correct.
mass and volume will be varying.
This
The
was just a
density remains same, right?
introduction की जो हमारे भी
So
next slide
now
में फॉर्मूले
ये
के बारे में बात
density आपको
करेंगे हम
पता
लोग.
है it's 9
तो
gram
उसमें
per
क्या आने
centimeter
वाला है,
cube.
right? So I just wanted
Right.
to
So in part
test you
B,
guys.
now
So
we
yeah,
are
Ruba
saying कि now the
has won the
volume
race over
is,
here. So you're
sorry, the
given the
volume we
density
want to
over
find
here,
out,
the density
and the
of
mass
lead,
is
right?
63 grams, right?
The density
Now
of
they're
lead
saying
is
कि the mass is 63 grams.
11
We want
gram
to
per
find
centimeter cube, right?
the volume, right?
Up, let's say if I give you a
Okay,
question
so
and
अब
you know
यहाँ
the
पे
formula,
देखें,
right? You
गौर
know
से
this
देखें यहाँ पे
formula
कि you
कि
have the
density
gram
equals to
mass in grams
mass upon volume.
and the density in
Okay.
gram per centimeter cube,
And
right?
you
So you
are
don't
given
need
the
to convert
density,
any
and
SI
if I
units,
give
ठीक
you
है?
the
So your volume
volume, you
would
can
be
find
now
the mass
centimeter cube,
easily,
right?
right? So
So
Rupa ने
now
just formula के
recall the
अंदर इसको
formula,
put in
density
किया and
equals
she
to
got the
mass
answer to
upon
be
volume.
22, right?
And how
That's
do you
what
get
they are
volume
saying over
subject?
here.
You
कि
just manipulate the
the 1
density wala
centimeter
factor,
cube
so
has
going
a
to be
mass of
mass upon
11
density,
gram.
right?
So if the volume
Just
becomes
put in the
5
values,
centimeter cube,
therefore
it's going to
your
be
volume
55
is
grams,
equals to
right? It
63
makes sense, right?
grams divided by
Let's imagine
9
this is a
centimeter
lead
cube.
cube.
Sorry,
Sir, 7.
This is a
per
volume of
centimeter cube.
1 centimeter
Yeah,
cube, right?
so 7
So
9
it
का
has a
63
mass
होता
of
है हमारे पास. You can see.
11 grams,
अच्छा, how
right?
do we get
If I
volume in
make the
centimeter
volume to
cube
be
के अंदर, वो हम देखते हैं, ठीक है
5
ना भाई? ये
centimeter
देखते
cube.
हैं with the SI units. मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ.
So now
So
it
it's
has
basically
again
the
more
volume is
number of
coming out to
matters,
be
more amount of
7
particles inside
centimeter
this.
cube,
Therefore, the
right?
mass is going to
अच्छा,
increase
now see
and it's
कि
going to be
this
basically
thing
what?
over here, if I just
55
use the
grams.
SI unit,
ठीक
right?
है?
So
That is
mass
what they're
is
trying to
given
relate.
you
So they're
to
trying to relate
in
this
grams over
quantity. So
here.
how do they
आपको
relate,
density
right?
दी हुई है
So if the
gram
density of a substance is
per
known, the
centimeter
mass of
cube में.
any volume
So
can be
it's basically
basically
as follows:
calculated using
gram
this
divided
formula.
by
We know
gram
that,
per
ठीक है?
centimeter cube.
So that is
So
why
when you
engineers and
basically
all the
have this
scientists need
situation,
a
you do
formula
what?
to
You
work
basically
out
convert this into
everything, right?
multiplication sign,
Imagine you're
and
making
you
a
just
building, right?
rotate the right side,
Let's
right?
say Rupa is
So it
making a building,
becomes
right? Building
gram
बना रही है,
into
too नहीं.
centimeter cube upon
And
gram,
let's say it
right?
is
This and
a
this cancels out.
11-story
So
building, right?
therefore, volume
Let's say
is going to be in
she
centimeter
wants to
cube
make a
for this
11-story
particular part.
building. Does this part make sense? Right? And 11-story means
Yes.
कि it has
ठीक है?
going to have
अच्छा जी.
how many
So
rooms?
ये आप कर
12
लेगा
rooms, right?
confirm, देखिए मैंने हमारे solving questions.
3,
Okay.
4, 5,
So I hope it
6,
makes sense. So
7,
now let's
8,
move on to the
9,
next section of the lecture.
10, 11, right?
You have solved and you have learned the
So
formula
सही है,
also.
this is the base
How
over
do we
here.
measure
So
density, right?
imagine
अब आते हैं
कि
एक्सपेरिमेंटल पार्ट पे आ गए हम
what
लोग, ठीक है? जो
material
आपने
is she
लास्ट
going to
टाइम जब
use?
एमसीक्यूज कर रहे थे उसके अंदर
Or
ये पार्ट आ गया था,
basically
right?
she's going to refer to
डेंसिटी वाला
density, right?
पार्ट
So
कि
Rupa,
how do
let's
we
imagine
measure
you are given
density
copper, right?
उसके अंदर you
You're
had
given copper
measuring cylinders in the last
options.
question,
You're given
right?
options,
So
copper,
imagine you have
silver,
regularly shaped solids, right?
and
Let's
let's
say
say
you have a
aluminum,
cube,
right?
right?
So this is the
You have a
material
cube.
available for
It's a regular shape,
the
right?
rods, for the material which can be used to create the structure, right? Copper has a density, let's
It's the
say,
length
of,
L,
let's
L,
say
L,
it has a
right?
density of, let's say,
Okay, so you want to find density of this
3,300
particular cube.
kilogram per meter cube. Let's say this is the density.
ठीक है?
And
वो
let's
क्या
say
होगा?
silver has a
So
density
just
of
remember how do you start
1100. It's a rough estimated values,
basically
ठीक है?
this
Not exact.
particular experimental
Let's give an
setup.
example over
You
here.
want to first
Let's
of
say
all write
aluminum
down
has
the
a
formula
density
that
of
density equals to
800
mass upon
kilogram
volume,
per
right?
meter cube.
So
So which
in this
material
thing,
is
in
more
this formula
suitable
for
for a
finding
strong structure
density,
of the building?
you need mass
Ruba,
of this cube.
Ruba.
You need volume
I
of the cube,
say
right?
copper.
Yeah, because you
Okay, अब
want
मुझे
the
हमजा
building to be
बताएगा
strong, right?
कि how can I find
So
Yes.
mass?
it's just an example over here. ठीक है, they are not exact values. So yeah. So
How can I
obviously
find
for
the
you can
mass
see
of this
density,
cube?
right? Density
Imagine
जितनी
ये
ज्यादा
mass
होगी, it
बनी हुई
means
है,
कि the
let's
structure
say
is more rigid. It has more number
metal,
of
right?
particles
It's a
inside that.
metal
Imagine this is the
cube over
rod which
here.
you're going to use, right,
इसकी मैं
for
mass
the
कैसे
structure.
find out करूंगा
So it is
experimentally?
going to be pretty rigid, right? The atoms
You learned the
inside this
method to
particular
find mass in the last
rod
chapter, right?
is going to have a lot of
वो
matter in it,
balance
ठीक है,
methods.
and it is going to
Yeah,
be providing a
ठीक है.
strong structure
So
for
we
the
can
entire
use a
building, this
labor
kind of thing.
balance or
Okay,
any top 10
so
balance, ठीक है, or
similarly,
electronic
they are just
balance to
saying
find the
that if you
mass,
want
right?
to design any
Find
bridge,
mass
any
using
building, any
electronic
structure
balance,
which needs metal, so they're
ठीक
going
है.
to basically
So
analyze the density,
इससे
right?
आपकी
And
mass आपको
using the
retrieve हो
density,
गई
they
है.
design
You have
everything,
now
right?
this thing
So
of your
whenever you
concept,
go
right?
out, you
अब
see copper
how do you
wires, right?
find
You
volume?
see wires
इसका
around
आंसर
you
I
for
need
carrying out
from
electricity.
Ruba.
ठीक है, so whenever you want to design any wire also, so उसकी भी आप density देती
How
हैं
do I
and
find
different other
volume of this
parameters, right?
cube?
So
Ruba?
this is a pretty important factor in basically designing any structure
We'll
or
find volume by
anything which
mass
requires
upon density.
material to be used that are
Mass
basically in your
upon
Volume
periodic
equals to
table,
mass
right?
upon
Which
density.
requires
mass upon
strength
density.
and
Okay.
tensile strength,
Okay.
so on and so
ठीक
forth,
है.
right? So strong
Good.
enough foundations can be made.
Good.
The SI
ठीक है.
unit of density is kilogram per
लेकिन
cubic
density
meter,
पता
right?
नहीं ना आपको
We're
सर
gonna derive them in a while कि कैसे आता है, ठीक है?
can't you just length cube
या रुबा, but density हमें फाइंड आउट करनी है ना, हमें पता नहीं डेंसिटी क्या है. आई डोंट नो कि कौन से मेटल से बना
in
है density.
volume we can use measuring cylinders
ना, इट्स अ रेगुलर शेप क्यूब. वी कैन यूज मेजरिंग सिलेंडर, बट वो इस्तेमाल जब होता है जब इट इज इरेगुलरली शेप, राइट? इट इज अ रेगुलरली शेप. एज रयान सेड कि सर यू कैन फाइंड वॉल्यूम ऑफ दिस क्यूब बाय यूजिंग मैथमेटिक्स, राइट? बाय यूजिंग मैथमेटिक्स, बिकॉज इसका फॉर्मूला हमारे पास अवेलेबल होता है, राइट? एंड हाउ डू यू फाइंड अ वॉल्यूम ऑफ अ क्यूब? दैट इज लेंथ इंटू लेंथ इंटू लेंथ, राइट? दैट इज एल क्यूब. सो यूजिंग दिस फॉर्मूला यू कैन फाइंड द वॉल्यूम ऑल्सो. सो आपके पास मास भी है, आपके पास वॉल्यूम भी है. You can simply find the volume of density of this cube by applying density equals to mass upon volume. ठीक है, and that will give you answer, right? Either in gram per centimeter cube में आपका आंसर आएगा depending upon your units, or it would be in kilogram per meter cube. Does this make sense? Give me a thumbs up if
yes
it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense to Mashal, Ruba, and Ryan को समझ आ गया, हमजा को भी समझ आ गया. Okay, good. गुड जॉब, ठीक है. अब व्हाट इफ आई से कि आई हैव अ इरेगुलरली शेप्ड ऑब्जेक्ट, ठीक है, सॉलिड है, एज रूपा सेड कि सर वी कैन यूज म्यूजिक सिलेंडर, राइट? लेट्स इमेजिन आई हैव दिस नाउ, ठीक है, इट्स अ स्टोन. लेट्स इट समथिंग एल्स लाइक दिस, ठीक है, इट्स इरेगुलरली शेप्ड स्टोन, ठीक है. इट्स अ स्टोन व्हिच आई फाउंड ऑन लेट्स से सी शोर, राइट? एंड मुझे इसकी ना वॉल्यूम निकालनी है, इसकी डेंसिटी निकालनी है कि इसकी डेंसिटी कितनी है, ठीक है. सो again, I would start from step number one, that is the formula, right? The formula of density is mass upon volume, ठीक है. So to find density, I need to find basically mass, ठीक है. I need to find mass and volume experimentally, right? And volume experimentally. Okay. So how can I find mass of this object, Ruba?
sir we can use a measuring cylinder first we
Mass,
can
not
measure the mass of the measuring cylinder then we can add the stone into the measuring cylinder and then we can minus the cylinder's mass with the mass that we have with the final mass that we have gotten and then we'll find the mass of the stone.
okay. So that is also correct, but what is the simplest way to measure mass of a stone? ऐसा रुबा इज सेइंग बेसिकली दिस, राइट? रुबा कह रही है कि हमारे पास मेजर सिलेंडर है, ठीक है, ये एम्प्टी है. तो मैंने एम्प्टी मेजर सिलेंडर की मास मेजर कर ली, ठीक है. एम्प्टी मेजर सिलेंडर, एम सी बोल रहा हूँ, ठीक है, मेजर सिलेंडर. इसकी मैंने मास मेजर कर ली, दैट इज M1, राइट? फिर मैंने क्या करा, मैंने फिर इसको इसके अंदर मैंने स्टोन डाला एंड आई यूज द इलेक्ट्रॉनिक बैलेंस टू बेसिकली फाइंड आउट द मास ऑफ द स्टोन प्लस दिस पर्टिकुलर सिलेंडर. सो मेरी मास टू आ गई. सो वो कह रही है कि मास ऑफ स्टोन क्या होगी मेरे पास? मास ऑफ स्टोन विल बी मास ऑफ the cylinder plus stone, that is M2 minus the empty cylinder. So that is going to be mass of stone. That is correct, but that is pretty lengthy, right? Why can't I start to use find the mass of stone using electronic balance? Won't that be simple, Ruba?
Yes, yes.
ठीक है, yeah, that is also correct. ठीक है, so how, अच्छा, now I want to,
Sir, can we measure? No, no, leave it.
can you measure?
Nothing, nothing.
Okay, no worries. ठीक है, so now I want to find volume, right? अब मैं वॉल्यूम कैसे निकालूं, उसका तो मेरे पास कुछ फॉर्मूला नहीं है. इट्स अ irregularly shaped object. How can I find volume now? Yes, Ryan.
Sir, you put water in a measuring cylinder
Yes.
and then measure the volume of the measuring, I mean water, and then put the irregularly shaped object, and then the volume you get after that, you subtract the old volume from the new one.
Okay, good. ठीक है, so if we can find the volume of stone using water displacement method, right? Water displacement method. ठीक है, अब ये होता क्या है, तो रयान ने आपको बताया अभी. ठीक है, that is as follows. If I just add a slide, so let's imagine this. You have a measuring cylinder, right? You have a measuring cylinder. ठीक है, एंड इसके अंदर आपने कुछ नोन वॉल्यूम ऑफ वाटर पुट कर दिया. यू हैव अ नोन वॉल्यूम ऑफ वाटर हियर. ठीक है, मेजरिंग सिलेंडर क्या होता है? बेसिकली इफ यू जस्ट रिकॉल, मेजरिंग सिलेंडर मेजरिंग सिलेंडर इज यूज टू मेजर वॉल्यूम. ठीक है, सो आपने जो वाटर पुट करा होगा इन दिस पर्टिकुलर इंस्ट्रूमेंट, so it has labeling marked over here in that. ठीक है, सेंटीमीटर क्यूब में होता है इसका स्केल. लेट्स से you have V1, right? V1 centimeter cube. Now you did what? You had the same measuring cylinder, right? अब आपने क्या करा? अब आपने करा है ये कि आपने उसके अंदर डाल दिया स्टोन, राइट? द irregular shaped stone, for which you want to find the volume, right? So you basically used a thread to basically put down this irregularly shaped object. ठीक है, ये इस threads का round है. अब now the volume was initially V1, right? Now it has become V2, right? Let me tell you what, guys, what is V1. V1 is just the volume of stone. Sorry, not stone. Volume of water. What is V2? V2 is the volume of water plus volume of stone, right? So if I write down the equation now, therefore, your V2 is V of 1, okay, that was volume of water plus volume of stone, right? So if I want to find volume of stone, I will send this thing over there, right? So volume of stone is basically what? It's just the difference between the two values. And it should make sense, right? जितना water rise हुआ है, ठीक है, that is basically due to the volume of stone, right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay, I hope it makes sense, right? Okay, so now you have everything over here. You just need to do what? You just need to apply the formula, right? So the last step is going to be as follows. Fifth step, right? The fifth step is going to be apply the formula, right? Apply the formula. And what is the formula which you have? The density of stone is going to be equals to what? The mass of stone which you have measured using electronic balance divided by the volume of stone which you have measured using the water displacement method. And that is going to be N, either gram per centimeter cube depending on your rating scales, or it is going to be N kilogram per meter cube, right? I hope it makes sense. We have just the last two slides left because I have class in 15 minutes, so I need to pause over here. Okay. So any questions till now? You can ask away.
Oh,
Educating. Okay. We have just
no question.
two methods to be left. How do you measure volume of liquids? Sorry, density of liquids and air. Okay. So I'm going to send a PDF of homework questions that is due to be basically done before the next class. That will be on inshallah Friday. अच्छा, जो क्लास की रिकॉर्डिंग थी मैं अपलोड कर दूंगा, तो मैं आपको लिंक भेज दूंगा. उसके अंदर से हमने पेपर 2 क्वेश्चंस किए हैं मास एंड वेट के ना, तो वो आप देख लीजिएगा बिफोर द नेक्स्ट क्लास. यू वुड हैव अ टेस्ट इंशाल्लाह ताला ऑन मोस्ट प्रोबेबली ऑन संडे. ठीक है,
for density, mass, and weight. Okay, make sense? If it all makes sense, give me a thumbs up.